showing up good on my side, so hopefully the audio sounds good.
How many
We'll
people
find
do
out.
usually show up on this one? Just for us to.
I don't know. I don't stream that often on YouTube. The last time I did was Sprocket, and that did fairly well. So we are live now. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hopefully you can hear me okay. If there's any issues with my mic, let me know. This is a brand new audio setup, so I'm still working the bugs out. But I'm joined here today with some of the people working on Arms Trade Tycoon tanks. I'm going to start off with a couple icebreaker questions while we wait for everybody to join in on the stream, and then I will open up the floor to you guys and you can ask away. They are not going to be answering every single question, because obviously some they might not be able to answer for various reasons. But yeah, if you have a question about the game, go ahead and drop it. If you have feedback on their demo, I would say probably leave that over on their Discord. All the links to that stuff is in the description, but that'll be easier for them. Unless you just want to say, like, good job, the demo's fun, something like that. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves so that everybody kind of knows who we're talking to.
Yeah, sure. Hello, guys. The voice you're hearing, that's the voice behind the ATTT fellow that you ask quite often, and I'm doing my best to answer as much as I can. So I'm the lead developer in our gang, and yeah, I think that's kind of we do it brief. So Lars.
Yeah. Hi, and yeah, my name is Lars, obviously, and the title is Legal Frame on the Discord. So yeah, nice meeting you all.
Yeah, and my name is Alex. Sorry, I disclosed your name, Lars, but my name is Alex. So nice meeting you all, and cool seeing so many streaming in. I mean, coming is like what, 70 people, perfect. So I guess I can give a quick background. I mean, the game has been in development for quite some time. It started just as an idea, you know, coming out from, I would say, nowhere. And yeah, it developed, as you can see, far enough. So we have released the demo, and yeah, we know there are quite a few things to fix, and you know the hardness of the demo, how easy it is to get bankrupt, has been on the agenda. So we're looking at that. But otherwise, we hope you enjoy the demo, and we have also we're really, you know, humbled and proud that we got in the collaboration with the Microprose. That is also kind of public now, and it's yeah, it's amazing, really. I mean, most of us been playing Microprose games since we were kids. I have actually, just on the bookshelf in front of me, I have quite a few manuals with Microprose, and working with them on such a title, that's really epic. Yeah, I think that maybe is enough for the background, so maybe we can jump on the questions, right?
Yeah,
if you can guide us.
If you see any questions, we've got, let's see what we've got. It sucks, I have to turn. I need to put another monitor to my left so I don't have to turn away from my microphone. Alright, so I did see one question. There's some questions about added researchable nations, which those are going to be added through different goals on the Kickstarter, but you guys can probably go into that a little bit more. Somebody's asking specifically about Italy right now, and I will go ahead and jump into historical mode in the demo so you guys can kind of see the game playing out while they talk.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, we have big plans, right? It's some might call it ambitious, but we do believe that it's, well, a game about tanks. It has to feature at least, you know, the three sort of major countries that were developing and building tanks. So you can see actually those on the startup screen. And those nations, or those countries, yeah, these are the ones. So the base game will definitely feature Britain. That's the mode, that's the setup for the base game. The other countries, they're currently set up as the stretch goals in our Kickstarter campaign. So reaching the stretch goal will definitely make it easier for us to implement them in the game straight on. And yeah, we hope that you share the same view, basically, so that's that we can have the possibility to work on that and have these 5 countries as playable for all the 5 time periods that we announced. So from World War I to the modern time. Yeah, I can see probably the smaller countries like the Sweden, the Italy. I mean, absolutely. I mean, they have really quite a lot of interesting designs. I would say unique designs, but we really have to take it stepwise because it's, to be honest, it's a lot of work to implement even a single country in the game. As you might have noticed while playing the game, you know, it's not about just making sort of a single tank that is, you know, like a solid thing, but it's actually breaking this one in multiple components and making sure that these components work well together with the components from the other tanks. And we also aim to have things like, you know, reverse engineering, so you can have a possibility to build tanks featuring parts from different countries. And yeah, that's quite a lot of work. So that's why we're on the Kickstarter, and also we honestly thought that it's the best way to kind of make you all aware that the game is actually in the state of the demo, so you can play, you can come back with the feedback on the game, and you can, you know, with that feedback you can guide us, because each of the mechanics that's, you know, this core mechanics, it's really bare bones that's in the demo right now. So by looking at what you guys are telling us, you know, and studying this, we can actually take the direction that, well, I think will be the most optimal, you know. Then we don't end up making a game that we would like to play, but we actually do the game that you would prefer to play.
No, that was good. You actually answered Captain Fagus' question there too. He was asking about corporate espionage, which if you look in, is it the design area or is it, no, it's engineering, isn't it? You can find, it's not available right now, but you have reverse engineering, so you can potentially get like non-domestically produced tanks and use them to reverse engineer stuff for your engineering department.
Exactly. I mean, if you go to the engineering, there you go. And if okay, well, if you go to the engineering, you can see actually there's a placeholder already at place. Yeah. And yeah, we believe that will really open up to really huge amount of combinations and potential that will be really fun to play with. So there you can see actually the Renault tank, you know, being sort of in a disassemble mode. Yeah. Who's next? You can see a question will.
Yeah, if you see any, go right ahead.
Well, I see quite a lot, but they're coming so quickly, so I
see one from Moosey Moose here. He's asking, how has the success of your Kickstarter and somewhat similar game Sprocket impacted your outlook on the future of tank builder games? An interesting one.
Yeah, it's, I would say, multi-dimensional question, actually. There's a number of questions in one question. Well, you know, the Sprocket is a very different game. We have been asked how do we compare with Sprocket, and how do we, you know, if that has impacted our development. Well, I don't think it's really a good thing to compare straight on, because we are trying to, if you play the demo, you know this. I mean, we are trying to take a global approach, so you actually play as a, you know, company, right? And you develop only focus on tanks and all that sort of matters for that. While in Sprocket, of course, it's really deep design thing. So it's really sandbox the dream if you want to shape out the tank, you know, the hull, the turret, and so on. How the way it impacted us directly was actually a relief, because when Sprocket came out and we saw that amount of hype and interest in Sprocket, then we were relieved that, well, actually we're on the right direction. Sure, we're not doing exactly the same thing as Sprocket, but we never intended to. But we thought that, well, if the interest is so much, and, you know, if the demo captures at least a fraction of that interest, then we are really happy. And well, I guess another thing worth to mention is that, you know, there's so much interest in deeper design of the tank. Then we pretty much have to look over that again and see if we can make it a bit less, you know, kid bashing and more open. We won't do the same thing as Sprocket, of course, but there are still ways how the design process can be more flexible.
All right, I see a couple more good ones here. So we've got Carson Bush, who asks, how do you plan on making nations feel distinct outside of aesthetics? And then there's another one that I've seen a lot, which is asking, will it be on mobile? So you can answer both of those, I would say.
Okay, well, I'll start with a simple one. On mobile, no, we're not planning. We don't have plans at the moment to do it on mobile, but I guess that is kind of natural because we have a game first to build, shape, and that's a Tycoon. That's mainly for the PC, for the Macs. Maybe in the future we'll look into this, but that's not on the top of our agenda, our to-do list. When it comes to the distinctiveness of different countries, well, the first, of course, is what components they're using. That's the first, and then how this is being handled in the engineering and the design. The second, I guess, it's what we call different contracts. Currently, in demo, you can actually experience two types of contracts. One is called experimental, another one is called supply, and they are pretty different in nature. What you have to do and what kind of benefits you are gaining. So then this is one game mechanics that we thought to deepen and to really make a difference in what is requested from you from different countries, depending which state they are, what kind of government they have, and I guess just a historical perspective. Then of course you have different things like coming from the Tycoon component. I mean, how do you handle the workforce, right? I mean, right now you can go wild and you can just hire and fire people in the same month and end up paying nothing. In the full game there will be, of course, limiters for that, but again, those limiters, they can depend pretty much on the country. Anything else that Lars, anything else that I might have forgotten on the big stuff? Well, I guess we have also things like tasks or missions that the countries will be pushing on you, and they will also be pretty different depending on the country you're playing for. And well, if we say about if we just look at the historical mode of playing, then naturally you'll have to adapt for completely different. You'll have to develop completely different play style depending on what is happening with your host country. I guess that's the major.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I definitely think you've covered a major, as you said. Yeah.
All right, here's another pretty good one. This is kind of I would imagine a kind of to be determined sort of thing, but someone's asking, will we see modern technology like hydropneumatic suspension, and will we have the possibility to develop our own shells, for example, starter shells? That last part I can answer because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the stretch goals, is like an ammunition designer.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we do want to stretch out as far as ammunition as well, so this is a stretch goal. And when it comes to the latest modern technology, well, to be honest, we haven't thought that in that detail yet. I mean, we are trying to sort of do it step by step. There's basically too much to kind of go through directly. So we'll have to pass on this question right now. Don't have a definite answer, but when we say modern, just for the sake of the completeness, when we say modern, we definitely mean up to 2000, and then we have to look.
Okay. Yeah, and guys, if we do miss your question, don't be afraid to send it again. Well, we're trying to get to everybody, but there are quite a few of you here, so the chat does move quick. So don't be too upset if we miss your question. It's not we're not doing it on purpose. But I do see one here, Engineer Gaming. In battles, will external factors like infantry, weather, terrain, and etc. affect the performance of your tanks and the outcome of battles?
Okay, well, the terrain right now is actually in the demo. When you look at the battle, you see there's when you look at the battle card on the tactical map, you see there's things like urbanization, the landscape, and so on. And yeah, they are in they're represented in a simplified way. So we're not speaking about exactly what kind of terrain. We're talking about sort of lumped in things, they're simplified. But they are, and they are actually affecting how the battle unfolds. So they have different requirements of the different tank attributes. So they do matter. But this is another direction one can deepen. One can actually give the landscape maybe in a percentage, forests and I don't know, swamps or roads and so on and so forth. And when it comes to making the battles actually more epic, yet again we have loads of ideas. We do want to make the battle look and and feel epic. So that concerns the scale. So how much you see on the battle, that concerns, and I'm talking about the units. How many units you can see on one go, and what kind of units you can see. The what we call anti-tank warfare, like the infantry and so on. Well, this is actually a stretch goal as well. This is one of the stretch goals, and I can maybe go a bit ahead and say, look, I mean, there are how many? Like 20. Lars, you remember 20 stretch goals we have right now? Yeah, I think there are like 20 of those, this should be really seen as our roadmap, the roadmap for the development of the game. I mean, it's if we reach all of those in the Kickstarter campaign, that will be awesome, but one has to be realistic. Most likely that is not happening. The more we reach, the more stuff we can input in the game.
Yes.
And I think the anti-tank warfare, so that's like infantry, field guns and so on, that is not that far in the list. So we are just at the beginning of the campaign. It's only, I think, third day now, so we do have pretty good chances. And well, I'll use it as a bit as a marketing platform, right? So if you guys had the chance to play the demo, if you see potential in that and you would like to support, well, you can support in different ways. It doesn't have to be, of course, direct pledge, though it's very welcome. But you can just, you can spread the word, so that as more people as possible get a chance to look at this, play the demo, leave the feedback, and choose if they want to support or not. And that gives us, all of us, give a chance to go further along the stretch lines.
Yeah, and all the links to their social media are in the description. So the Kickstarter's right at the top if you guys want to check that out. And then you can check out their YouTube, Discord, which is growing quite a bit, and all the other ones. Well, I didn't list every single one, but you can find enough to find your way around the rest. All right, we got a couple more questions. This one's interesting. I don't know if we ever touched on this in any of our previous Q&As. From CB3000. Question, can one sell tanks to multiple countries so it could happen that your tank fights against each other?
Yeah.
And then there was one other that you can add on after that of, is there modding support planned from YOLO King?
Okay, so selling the tanks, well, we are not planning to make any limitations on, how many customers and what are the customers. So theoretically, that can happen, that you will be looking at the battlefield where both of your tanks are battling each other. We will need to, to kind of probably balance it out a bit, how exactly it influences one of the gains from the battle called, the tank reputation. But we have, I don't see actually any obstacle to having this. I mean, most likely that will be really rare occasions if that happens. But why not? That can be some fun element there. When it comes to modding, well, it's this question has been asked, I think, multiple times, and I really don't have a definite answer right now. Most likely there will be some, say, top layer modding when it comes to playing with the attributes, the attributes for all those components and modifiers and other things. I know Tycoon component. I think I saw on our Discord somebody already got in the part of the of the code or something, and was posting how to make something, you know, like a research, how to get them all on one day or something like this. Something we have to actually to address. But so the top layer modding most likely will be there. If we're talking about the deep modding, that is inserting your very own tank models, that I don't have a definite answer right now.
Oh, this is a really good question from the Arclight. He says, what about reactivity? Maybe not the best word to use for this, but kind of like, I guess, reverse engineering for other nations. Will our tanks exported to Japan or China or Russia be copied and become our competitors in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I mean, we do want to have, I don't know if reactivity is the right word, but yeah, we do want to have that element that I mean, if you, let's say, if you sell your tank to a country that already has a tank school or a tank, you know, tank tycoon, that you have a higher chance of seeing at least the parts of your tank being used on the, you know, on the foreign designs. Maybe not the complete tanks, but at least the parts of them. So it's the same process as we will go through, you know, the reverse engineering.
All right. Jump me down. Okay. Xenon Productions. I think I might be able to answer this one. Regarding experimental tanks like the Mouse and Tsar tank seen on your goal, what others do you have in mind in adding? Well, actually, I guess that's one for you. But it was a different question than it was.
If the Tsar tank will enter the game, or?
He's just asking, like, because he probably saw the mouse in one of the stretch goals on your Kickstarter. Right, he's just kind of asking what other rare tanks you plan to add to the game if you reach that goal. Or if you have any in mind particularly.
Well, the ones that I have directly, that's like the Tog. You know, you have the Tog, you have the Ratte, you have Mouse, but we need to be a bit more careful there because, you know, taking a something when, how should I put it? When we, let's say when we introduce a tank, be that a mainstream tank or be that a prototype tank, what we always want to have is that there's actually combinations available for the components of this tank. So if you say, if you make even a Tsar tank, you can still take some tank components from other models and make at least some combinations with that. And naturally, depending on you know, on the size and the shape and so on, there might be some limits to this approach. So we we'll need to be a bit careful. We cannot promise that, well, any tank that ever been, like Leonardo da Vinci tank, for example, right? That will be in the game, but we'll try to have as many as possible to make sense simply.
Okay, here, this is another good question, once again from Engineer Gaming. I have a question about wars in the game. Will battles your tanks participate in affect the overall war and both sides' planning? Both how your nation's and the enemy nation strategy adapts?
I would say like this. I mean, we are planning to have two modes, right? Or we do want to have two modes. One is called historical one, another one is called alternative history, right? Or what we call sandbox. So for this historical mode, your tanks can, you know, they will perform differently in the battle depending on the design and depending on the opponent. But still, if you know, if Germany had the success during the 1939 and 1941 in terms of the campaign maps, well, it will have a success also in the historical mode in the game. So there is some limits to how influential your tanks can be in this mode. Now, what happens in the sandbox mode, or alternative history mode, then we do want to take more freedom and more liberty in the impact of your tanks. So then actually we want to put more weight on the efficiency of your tanks in the battlefield, so that actually they do influence the outcome of the campaign and maybe the complete war. I hope that answers the question.
Alright, I see one that had popped up at least once. Somebody was asking, let me see if I can find it again. It was just in regards to like the modern era of if IFVs would be part of the game as well, which I'd imagine because we kind of already technically have infantry vehicles in the form of like the Whippet, but I'm assuming that's probably to be determined once you get closer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of what we call derivative vehicles that are really fun to have. They have, to be honest, they have quite different, they play quite different role on the battlefield. But as we said it multiple times, I mean, initially we will focus on the tanks only. It's even just the tanks, it's pretty ambitious task, and there's a lot of things you can do in a lot of tank models you can include. Yeah, and if all goes well, and then we, at some point, let's say we deplete the portfolio of tanks that are out there to be included in the game, then then it can be a really good idea to include vehicles other than tanks. Yeah, don't go there. Currently, it's weights too much. You can see you're putting the track.
Oh, very, very good question from Titan. Do you get negative reputation if your exported tanks perform poorly?
Yeah. Well, you do. Your tanks get a negative reputation. There are two reputations in the game. One is the reputation of you as a company for each of the countries, and then you have a reputation for each of your tanks. So if the tank is doing well on the battles, then it increases its reputation, and it's actually already in the demo, I think. And that helps you quite a lot when you're trying to sell. So that gives you a possibility to ask more monies for your tanks, and also play more with the deadlines and the amount of tanks and so on. And then the company reputation, that is something that you gain by fulfilling the contracts. You get an increment in that when you fulfill the contracts, and also when you fulfill the experimental contracts. And then again, the idea is that the more reputation you have with the country, the more and better contracts, basically the more options you have to deal with this country. So it's kind of interconnected with each other. So you do want your tanks to do well. That will impact how attractive they are to other customers. And you also want to have a quite high standing with your company reputation.
All right, let's see if we have any other questions. Oh yeah, good one, Fagus. So a bit of a different question. Let's say you're playing as Great Britain and a tank company, as a tank company, I'm assuming was what he meant. Will you have to compete with other allied companies like GM or Renault, as well as other domestic ones?
Yes. You'll have to compete with all type of tycoons, all type of companies. In the demo, for example, we tried to kind of surface that. So you have two competitors that are actually domestically based, and you can see that they share most of your tank designs and most of the components. A few small differences, but most of them are based on the same research tree as you have. And then there's also one German one. So it will be, and then depending, of course, on where the contract is, you can expect you'll face more competition from the domestic ones or from the foreign ones.
All right, here's one from Kyle Spooner. Are there any plans to expand the demo to get a better feel and focus of the game?
We are trying to. Most likely, we will release an update for the demo that will feature something that is not there right now. I won't say exactly what it is, but I hope you guys will like it when you see it. And then, of course, there's some rebalancing and patching to the bugs that has been already encountered. But what we have agreed at the moment, that the demo will definitely be online available as long as the Kickstarter campaign goes. And then we have to think, because we're getting quite a lot of questions on, okay, so what's going to happen then? I mean, do we need them to wait for this time while you're working on the game, or are you going to going to make some updates on the demo from time to time. So how does that go? Well, to be honest, I don't know at the moment. We have to sit when all this turbulence from the Kickstarter, when it has sedimented, we have to sit and think and discuss what's the best way to proceed.
Okay. Just to answer your question, Arduous Moth, you can currently play the demo of the game, but the actual digital download for the game, for the beta version, is not going to be out until, what was it, the end of next year?
Yeah, I mean, we put Q2 2023, but again, this is a very conservative estimate. I mean, we've got burned a bit when we promised the Kickstarter. You know this, Con, right? We promised the Kickstarter in what, August? In the beginning, September. And then I personally had to apologize, I think at least twice, saying, sorry, not happening, and sorry, not happening again. So we don't want that to happen again. So we would prefer to put the expectations maybe, a bit further down the line. And then I think it will always be better to come with a surprise that, we're actually done. So. And then,
there's an interesting question here, Little Man Kitten. Similar to the IFB question, will there be dedicated anti-air platforms? So I guess, what other types of classes do you think you would add to the game in the future?
Classes like different classes of tanks or the opponents?
Yeah, just different types of vehicles. There's self-propelled artillery, anti-tank gun, specific tank destroyers, stuff like that.
Right. Well, again, this is too early to say because we need to make the the base job done first and foremost. But the first thing that comes to my mind is kind of the self-propelled artillery, right, and tank destroyers. Because in terms of the design and in terms of the kind of the purpose, they're pretty similar. Actually, if you think about playing for France, right, and the first tanks like Saint-Chamond, for example, that's not so much of a tank in our modern view, right? And I would say the same goes for Whippet. It's it's a tank but armed only with a machine gun. So these are the first two, and then we have been asked if the armored cars will enter, if the troop carriers and so on. As I said, it's the choice or the variety of vehicles is really astonishing, but we need to pace ourselves and just take it one at a time.
All right. Chappie stream, will there be PvP? That is one of the top stretch goals, one of the ones that's higher up. So it's sort of on the table, but I probably wouldn't expect it unless the Kickstarter hits that.
Yeah, I mean, if we got I don't know, somebody with a with a kind of substantial financial muscle in the Kickstarter campaign, yes, but I think that's at the bottom of the Kickstarter list, so I think it's a bit too early to say. But just to surface on that, yeah, we have actually two ideas, or two approaches how the PvP can be implemented in the game, and both have their cones and sorry for the playing with the words, cone. Both have cones and pros, but I think it is really too early to say about this. It's there's high chances that for the starters the game will be single player. So
all right. Another one from Arduous Moth. What will the final price for the game be? I kind of only estimated based off the Kickstarter goal. I don't know if you guys have anything in mind right now.
Well, I don't think we can actually give that estimate because A, exactly, it will depend on how the Kickstarter goes, and then B, it will depend on how our partners will, what they do, what they think about this. So there's
okay.
So I think the only thing I can say for sure is that would be definitely in the reasonable scope, of course.
Yeah, you're completely fine to promote the game, Chappie Stream, or Chappie Steam. Sorry about that. go ahead and tell as many people as you want about it. That's kind of the goal of this stream in general.
Please do.
And
please do.
for you, Pyromaniac T80U, in historical mode, what will happen in the pre-war era? I mean, you're kind of seeing it right now. This is the pre-war era. I'm kind of designing tanks and trialing them. I got my contract approved with Britain for my heavy tanks. I'm just waiting for them to actually send me the contract. I don't know. I don't know if that's a bug or if it just takes a while to get it.
I think it takes a while. I think you wait. If I remember correctly, it usually goes around June. So if you go with time a bit faster, then it'll happen. But it's there definitely will be sort of different challenges in the game, and sometimes it will be really stressful because there will be like world wars or just multiple wars going out there. So you'll have to focus on that. Sometimes when it will be like an interbellum period, or maybe to some extent the Cold War, then it will be different challenges. And this is why we were thinking that to keep interest, to keep player in the loop and tension, then we will have different type of contracts. So it will not be always supply contracts. Let's say you can have upgrade type of contracts when you have to. Let's say that the country has a fleet of old T-55s, right? And you're playing for Britain, and you happen to have the technologies, the components that you can actually make an upgrade for T-55. So then you go out there, and instead of selling new tanks, you go out and you're selling the upgrades for the tanks that are not your domestically designed. And then other things, other type of conflicts that will tag along, and that is also sort of weaved in with what country you're playing. So that's the current plans.
I bankrupted.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You can actually. There's still time. You can go and sell some resources.
Oh, it booted me right out. Alright. Accept. No! Don't let me accept. Okay, so you have to just kind of... it blocks my view.
Yeah. Well, that is one. That is, I think, the major issue we've been addressing in Steam, in our Discord, that especially on the first playthroughs, it's too easy to get bankrupt. And we know this. We are trying to kind of address that, and there are some ways how we can make it more friendly, to relax some of the costs and some of the, let's say, how quick you can deliver, and so on and so forth. So hopefully we can fix that. But actually, you can go and sell some resources if you are, really struggling, and then you can do a very, very bad thing in terms of your, HR. You can just fire people and take them the next. Currently,
I thought I was doing good on my money, and then it just said I was bankrupt. I'll just leave it panning around this so I don't embarrass myself again. This way I can actually get to some questions.
Well, actually, I feel embarrassed when you get bankrupt. Like, oh damn it! I mean, but
that's definitely something that I did notice just playing the demo. It is definitely between trying to balance in buying enough materials and to be able to actually build the tanks that you want. It is definitely very tricky, but as I have up in the corner right now, this is a pre-alpha build, so like everybody who has, it's good feedback to give them about like, hey, the balance of this and this and this are kind of not great right now. That's like what they need right now. But just keep in mind, this is not the final release of the game, so this this isn't what you're getting when you actually support the game. This is just how the game is right now.
Yeah, this is just to get, this is not even sort of a pre-alpha, to be honest. This is just to get the feeling of the game loop, of the major game mechanics. And as you say, Con, we do need this feedback, because when you work on something for too long, you get a bit sort of blinded, right? you know how things are going to happen, and you know the ways out and the tricks, the steps that you should do. So it becomes a bit, not actually a bit, it becomes pretty difficult to figure out, especially the balance things. So, and honestly, we're getting, I mean, we are now sort of restructuring ourselves in order to kind of take all that feedback that is coming through all the different channels and you know, really keep that, so we have that available and sorted, and then when the time is right, you know, after the demo and the Kickstarter campaign finishes, we can sort of, in a quiet atmosphere, we can sit and evaluate and sort of redesign the game components depending of what we've heard from you.
Alright, this is a fairly interesting question from Pergato Vickers. He says, can you pressure nations into accepting contracts? Like, if you were to sell a tank to one nation, would that spiral into bordering nations requesting tanks?
I mean, like the war fever, right?
Yeah.
Well, you cannot do that in demo, for sure. But this is, I mean, the whole kind of nation tycoon interaction thing, it has a lot of dimensions, and this is one of the interesting examples what you can do. Again, without promising too much and revealing, I can just say another way to look at this is that you can maybe have a possibility to have more explicit way of affecting what the nation is willing to do. So we have also some thoughts about that. And actually in the demo you have sort of a glimpse of that, because when, I guess many of you notice when you play and you get the experimental contract, if you win this, then it is your tank that is featured in the, you know, concept folder of the country. So you kind of you affect what this country will be asking in terms of the future supply contracts.
If you guys want to try to find a couple of more questions, I'm going to try to find the file you sent me that shows the combat, so I can pull that up on stream to kind of show people what will happen, because I don't think I'm going to reach that point in the stream. I think it takes a while to get to there.
Yeah, I mean, we on one hand, you know, the demo is kind of short. I think it's like 6 months in the game time. On another hand, it's not like, you know, the action, so you don't jump directly to the battles. You have to work a bit before that's happening. And I don't know, there's so many questions, so as soon as I'm focusing on one, there comes something else and it goes up. Reverse engineering, can we buy them or can we capture them? Actually, the idea is that you're going to get them, you know, the foreign tanks from two ways. A, direct negotiations with the country, and B, let's say by fulfilling those tasks or missions from the country. So that's what we currently have planned. Espionage mechanic that will be added eventually by the stretch goal. Yeah, well, there's a lot of espionage. Currently there's a lot of complaints actually about the sabotage, so we have to reevaluate that. Will we get contract for parts and maintenance? Will we modernization? Yeah, so there's actually 3 in 1. Contracts for parts? No. We don't plan to allow you selling just, you know, engines or machine guns, but the upgrade kits, yes. So we do, I think I mentioned, we do plan to have like upgrade contracts, and that can be seen as a kind of collection of parts. It's not a tank in itself. Will design be restricted, or will you be able to make your own engines, guns, turrets? Well, it will not be making your own as Sprocket. I haven't looked at Sprocket for some time now, unfortunately. I don't know. I know that you can do pretty much with the structural components, but if you can really do your own engines, guns, and other things, I'm unsure. But in our case, we will try to expand what we have. So you have engineering when you take the base component and you combine it with the different minor components, what we call modifiers, and then you can get pretty different builds really, and I think that can get you pretty far. What else? Well, again, Will be components such as radio stabilizers in the more modern Ares laser range? Yeah, we do want to have those. Again, we haven't really sketched the exact component list that far for the obvious reasons, but that's the intention. Replacement losses.
Hello, everybody, and sorry about that.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, if you are, let's say, living in interbellum period, then what will happen is that even though you supplied the regiment with tanks, they will get worn down, they will break. So, as I said, we want to have different contracts. So now you just, disclosed another one which we plan the replacement ones. Yeah. Any other questions, Cone, that you think we should focus or that caught your attention? There's sure. Again. If we get the final stretch goal to control our tanks, will it be the first person, third person, or both? It's a good question. I mean, we have to wait until we see exactly how the game will shape out. I think there's quite a few other alternatives how this control thing can be implemented. So we will have to wait. We'll have to wait. I don't want to promise something that we, the path that we don't take. But if that stretch goal is reached, then one way or another, you will be able to actually shift from being, a passive observer to actually more interaction with a tank of yours on the battlefield.
All right, there we go. I couldn't find the original footage that you sent me. I don't know which folder it ended up in, but this is from my most recent video talking about the Kickstarter, where you guys can see a little bit of the kind of tank-on-tank combat happening.
Yep.
So let me find a couple more questions, and we'll have like 20 more minutes, I think. We'll go until noon if that's all right with you guys, and then I think that'll answer as many questions we can get to today.
Sure. How truly cursed will we be able to make our tanks, like say stick FT Tyroton? Yeah, I mean, you will be able to do what we call hybrids. Exactly how cursed they are, well, there will be some limits based on what we call compatibility. So let's say you won't be able to put a turret of KV2 on, I don't know, FT17 for the obvious reasons. And how far that will stretch, I guess, there you go. I guess that is again sort of a balancing between, the kind of simply physics and historical perspective and the gameplay element. I mean, you do want to strike a balance there.
All right, let's see.
There's a fun question. I have a question regarding the infantry. If a tank gets stuck or separated from it, will enemy infantry be able to storm the tank and kill his crew? Honestly, we haven't thought about that deep interaction. I don't have really good answer to that. Sorry.
Oh, here's a Kickstarter related one.
Okay.
Goodness, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Isamil is asking, have you guys considered adding in-between rewards between 223 euros and 860 euro tiers?
Well, to be honest, that's the first time I hear this kind of question. So we need to... I know that Kickstarter allows to add rewards. That far I know. But we have not really considered that, so we need to discuss that, I suppose. It's one thing that I can probably stress is that it's really good if there's more questions about the Kickstarter and so on, just to go on the campaign and in the I think it's called comments there as well. Just go and ask, so then we can have it focused questions there, or go on our Discord and ask us questions as well. So currently no plans, because we have not simply thought about this, how to bridge that gap.
DeFrenchy Tank, I believe that the battles are purely AI. I don't think... He's asking if it'll be like an RTS style gameplay for battles.
RTS style for battles. Well, what you see in the battle depends on what are the conditions. The conditions for the battle map, the conditions for the unit, the tank on your side, the tanks on the other side. But if you'll be able to play it like the real-time strategy, that far, I don't think so.
Yeah, I can kind of elaborate on that a little bit, because the way that you guys have kind of set the game up, you're the tank company. You don't actually technically control the tanks when they go into battle. You're basically taking and selling them. So all you're seeing is basically like quote-unquote drone footage of the tanks fighting. So it would kind of be like you're an auto manufacturer and you're selling cars, and then you see people posting videos of your cars, and you can kind of like get the feedback on how the car does based off of that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've played quite a lot of Tycoon games before, and one thing that, for example, personally I was always a bit disappointed is that, well, when whatever you are selling, be that a car or any other kind of product, merchandise thing, then when you sell, you never get the feedback. You just you sell to the void, and it's your responsibility ends at there. And we wanted actually to kind of exceed just the sales and actually follow your design. In this case, it's the tank. So you get, and also to reward the player, because I think it's really fun to sit there and go through all the steps. There you go, to go through all the steps, and design and manage to sell, and then to see your tank on the battlefield. And if that kind of turns to repetitive, or if that is not what you're willing to focus on in the game, then you always have this, fast forward button on the top right of the screen, so you can just use that and just go directly to the outcome.
All right, here's a decent question from, again, the ArcLight. He says, can countries screw us over by refusing payment, changing the requirements, or downsizing contract after the tanks are produced, forging false battle reports, or forcing us under monopoly laws?
Wow, that's these are all really cool, honestly. That is currently not implemented, but it's something that would be really great if that is left in the I think under the contract negotiations or suggestions channel on our Discord, so we can have it available and look at this again. I'll try to remember it, but the chances are that if we continue talking for 20 more minutes, then there will be more questions and ideas, and I'll forget it. But it's interesting mechanics, absolutely.
Well, I'll leave this stream up so you guys can come back to it and go through the stream chat if you want and kind of see what you missed. But
excellent.
Adding on to that a little bit, from what I remember talking about, you guys do plan to have different events that can happen, like world events that will affect your company. So there already is a degree of what he's asking in the game, or maybe not necessarily in the demo. I don't think you added that to the demo, but in the final game, that is something that's planned, just maybe not those specific ones.
Yeah, I mean the events, the important part of the gameplay, right? Because they immerse you in the in your role of being a tank manufacturer, Tycoon. So, and we do have events currently in the demo, and we do have even we gave a bit of a kind of feeling of what different type of events can occur. Some affect like the resources, others affect the logistics. Then you have even the events that offer you a certain choice, take the money or and suffer the possible consequences, or remain sort of loyal to your home country. And we do want to expand that. So there will be events happening, and you'll have to adjust. The tricky part here is to make it count, but yet not make it like make it a completely decisive for you, so you can actually continue the game after you made, let's say, a wrong choice or an event happened and you haven't adapted to this, and that can be tricky.
All right, here we got a couple good questions here. So the first one, this is probably a pretty quick one. Will you be able to work with a competitor to produce a design similar to how the MDT-70 was a joint project from America and Germany? And then after you answer that, Engineer Gaming is asking, can you like trick or mislead a company into thinking your tank is better than it is or has features that it doesn't to try to get them to buy your tank?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can say like this. I mean, we all things that are connected to the Tycoon part, that's like interaction with your competitors, the countries, and even like upgrades on your factory grounds, we had a plan to leave them for a separate mechanic called corporal research. So think of that you have like a research tree, or in whatever shape that is, but you will have a possibility actually to kind of navigate, to choose what kind of corporal tricks and possibilities your company will develop in the future. I think that actually answers both questions.
Let me see if I can. I'll see if I can show you, Hunter Hamburg, how I got the guns into the female version of the tank. What is another question for you guys to answer? Oh, Hayden, no, the game is not going to be free. When the demo is just free, the final game it will be paid. And okay, Morgan asks, what nations can you build for? Like, are we going to be able to build for small nations like Luxembourg, Iceland, etc.?
Well, we first and foremost we go for the big ones. They are those 5 that you can see in the startup screen, and then we're going to sort of home in the other ones. There are quite a few that did leave the mark in the tank building. So Japan, you have China, you have India, you have Sweden, you have Czech Republic, you have Italy. Well, that's just directly from the bottom of my mind, from the top of my mind. If we're going to go into the even smaller, we will see. The thing is that how exactly they're going to be represented in the game. Are they going to be just another Tycoon, sort of a rival Tycoon that is focusing on its own little market and maybe some surrounding countries, or it will be an actual playable country? And naturally here, that country being a playable country, that kind of limits the scope, right? Because you cannot, obviously, it's not fun to play for a country that has been developing tanks only during, let's say, one of those 5 periods that we mentioned about.
Oh, I didn't realize how cursed I made this thing. I have the tadpole running gear and the wheels on the back.
Yeah, that's a classic.
But yeah, if you saw that, Hunter, you have to go into the engineering for these little side sponsons, and you have to add the mount inside, and then you'll be able to add the machine.
Yeah.
And he also mentions that an option to delete old builds would be nice.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, I'm sure you'll add that eventually.
Yes, it's both that and just, that is a beauty, I know. And delete the old... I guess when we say builds, we're talking about the designs, right? Tank designs.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, sure. I can say like this. We're already getting we got quite enough feedback that made us realize that, well, we will need to do some medium to major rework of the UI, and that mainly concerns the game aspects when, for example, you want to compare things with each other, where you want to see some additional information like time, tanks available, contracts available, and that. So you don't need to write down it on the paper or keep them in mind and then go to another window and look at the screenshot.
All right, I'm just scrolling back up through to see if any questions we missed. We've got one from Spiper, who who is asking, if a certain stretch goal isn't met before the release of the game, will there be a chance to see it in an update after release? Which I think we did talk about that in our call, but I never included it in the video.
Yeah. Well, it will help us a lot, of course, if the stretch goal is met for those, for those countries. Then they will make it to the release, which is obvious. If we don't, then then we will do our best to still make it happen. It will be definitely difficult for us to do that. So it depends also on how far in the stretch list we're talking about. But it's we'll continue. We've been doing this, for quite some time. I mean, 2 years now, right? Spot on.
2 years on the 30th will be since my first video with you guys.
And you probably remember that has developed quite a lot, right, since then.
Yeah, you guys can go back and watch all the old Q&As that we did, because the initial one, there was none of this, like 3D models or anything that you're seeing right now. This was all like, I don't know if it was necessarily over the last year, but this is all a lot more recent. When it first started out, it was a lot more 2D, a lot less plug and play. You didn't see as much of what was changing on your tank.
Right.
It was more of like a list of list of stats of the vehicle. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we'll continue to work, but we will not say no for a helping hand, with those stretch goals, and that will definitely speed up things and help us a lot. And then there are different mechanisms, there's like the DLCs and so on, which are all possible, but it's we just want to make the base game complete sooner than later, and then sort of move on from that and develop it further.
All right, so Vegas has a very important question, probably the most important one of all time. He says, will we get the FCM 36 starting out as France?
So I guess I pretty much have to say yes here. Otherwise the stream will end right away if I say no. So no, honestly, we will try to go for the for the iconic tanks, the tanks that famous and so on. So
yeah, I mean, you've got other, like, I'm assuming if whenever the French tree is eventually added, you start off with something along the lines of the Renault, which you can already see in the in the game, and then you eventually go up through. You've got the three different, was it the Hotchkiss, the Renault, and then the FCM, which are the cavalry tanks for World War II. So
yes, and then I mean for the World War I also, we have to keep in mind that the Saint-Chamond is a must, right? That has to be there also, and what's the second one that was the most famous? Now my mind is blanking it.
Oh yeah, they had a bunch of wacky ones.
Yeah, but actually Saint-Chamond is the one that is least looks like the tank. Actually, it most looks like the self-propelled gun. If you look at just its shape, yeah.
Okay, Arclight is asking, will you find buyers for Mark I in modern era? Museum contract for replicas.
Well, honestly, that was not even on the agenda. If that kind of buyers, it can be made sort of as a I don't know, maybe Eastern egg thing, just for the sake of fun. The problem that I can see is that if you make it all the way to the modern era and you do want to keep your company afloat, you have to have pretty good profits. And I can hardly see a chance that there will be collectors and museums enough for Mark I's that you can load your production queue for 1,000 units or 500 units. Unless, of course, they're ready to pay $1 million for, well, not even $1 million. If we're talking about the current monies, it should be, I don't know, 50 million or something, or 100 million per unit.
Oh, here's a perfect question to end on once you finish with that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Didn't know if you had anything else to say on that. Sweet Raccoon, this is like a perfect question to end on. What are the favorite tanks of the staff? So what are your guys' favorite tanks? If you had to pick one.
Well, from those ones that we have right now, and unfortunately it's not yet shown in the demo, but I've seen that and Lars has seen it. My favorite one is actually A1 Independent. The multi-turret one, you know, from the Interbellum. But that one is just so unique and specific, and well, we all know how it would fare if you look at the T-35 and the Russian the Russian continuation of that multi-turret line. But it just looks so cool. So that's my favorite one. I don't know, Lars, what's your pick?
It's difficult, but for some reason I just always liked the T-34. I don't know why it appeals to me so much, but yeah, if I had to pick one, that might be the one.
It's a pretty good tank as well. I can't object that.
Yeah.
And I guess just to make it clear, I guess we're talking about the Russian T-34, not the American, the one. But
no. Yep.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we answered quite a few of your guys' questions. Sorry if we did miss any of them. There were quite a few people in the chat, but if we did miss them, I'm sure we could probably do something like this again, maybe towards the end of when the Kickstarter's wrapping up, to kind of that last surge of interest. But if you guys want to go and check out the Kickstarter, that link is below, and you can also join their Discord and just try to ask your questions in there, or you can put them in the comments of this video, and I'll try to pass on any that I see that we didn't touch on or that I haven't seen before. But yeah, feedback and questions are very, very good for them right now, because it really helps. It can help shape the game as it has already from the videos that we did in the past.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more with you, Con.
So yeah, thank you guys very much for joining me to answer some questions here, and thanks to everybody who joined in to ask the questions. Turned out pretty good, I think. I think we answered quite a few questions.
Yeah, we did. We did a good job. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, please go.
Thank you, Cone. Yeah, and thank you, everyone.
Yes, and looking forward to the next session.
So that'll wrap it up for this stream. Thank you guys very much for joining in. I will see you later on this week with the final World War I related video, which actually these guys have helped me out by providing some pictures of their model of the Mark 8. So if you want to see some information about technically the United States' first heavy tank, you can watch that hopefully this Friday or Saturday, I think, is when I'll be releasing it. So you'll have a nice video to tide you over for your Thanksgiving break if you're in the US. So thank you guys very much for joining in on the stream, and I will see you then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.